r/ask Reddit. Older generations of Reddit. What toys did you have as a child that would be considered too dangerous to be given to a child today? Not a toy, but playgrounds were plunked down onto asphalt and concrete, with metal slides that caused third-degree burns on hot summer days. I remember those. Some older public playgrounds still had those as late as the early 90s. My city got rid of all wooden playgrounds, metal slides, and tire swings around 1995 to 1996, except they replaced them all with generic boring equipment made of metal and plastic. Some parks had kick-ass equipment before that. A chemistry set. My brother and I were totally unsupervised and never followed the instructions. We just mixed chemicals together at random to see what would happen. I remember one combination turned into this really smelly black foam-like substance. My dad and his brothers didn't have a chemistry set, but their father did let them play with mercury in his workshop. They also taught themselves to make zip guns. I think they were called. Basically, guns crafted from parts like car antennas. As a kid in the 60s, my uncle looked up gunpowder in the family encyclopedia and headed off to the pharmacy with his pocket money. He could barely reach up to the counter, but they were happy to sell him a pound of each ingredient. He now has a PhD in chemistry, and most of his peers have similar stories. I also have a PhD in chemistry. I used to make bombs in the woods for fun back in high school. I have a crayon melter that melts crayons and lets you pour it into molds so you could make your own crayons and rings. Turns out production stopped because of a failure to stop the heater from being turned on if the lid was opened. Those were so much fun we would pretend we were blacksmiths when taking them out of the molds. We had these weird fake cigarettes that actually allowed you to blow smoke that was quite realistic. We freaked out a lot of adults with them. There were these fake cigarettes that were white sugar with one end that was glowing, red that was sold in a packet of 10. Each was wrapped in a round cigarette paper. I think Fanny Farmer Candies sold them. They have candy cigars too that are gum that are labeled like you were having a boy or girl, like the tradition of smoking a cigar when you have a kid. I had an incredibly heavy metal square looking robot that spit smoke it produced from burning oil. It smelled noxious and was heavy enough it could have easily been a murder weapon. Lawn darts. When the game was over, we used to throw them in the air and then run for our lives. I have no idea how I survived the 70s. I never owned one, but you could buy a radioactive science kit that came with real radioactive material and a Geiger counter. My father had one of those. We were just talking about it and that's actually why I asked this question. Haha, they were popular in the 50s. Art's third arm starts scrolling. Creepy crawlers. It was the safer 90s version, but you could still burn yourself on those metal molds. I still have a scar on my forearm from one of those. Even then I remember my brain telling me those types of toys are dumb. You buy it and what? You make a few squishy things that collect dirt and get lost before you run out of stuff to make more. But oh god did I love playing with one when I got it, lol. I had a large red plastic toy box that looked like a treasure chest in my bedroom closet growing up. When I was around 7, late at night the toy box would start taking to me from the closet, calling my name, Michael, in a low, creaky voice. For weeks, I was terrified to fall asleep because I knew I'd wake up to the voice again. Yet every morning when the sun filled my room I'd open the lid to the box and it would just be toys, like it should be. Finally, I was able to convince my mom that I wasn't making it up, and got her to sleep in my room that night with me, and shortly thereafter she woke me up with "Michael, wake up, I hear it." Long story short, we discovered it was my talking kit with very low batteries, talking away in slow motion by itself. I don't know if those should be illegal, but I definitely feel like the experience damaged me. I had a similar experience with a Furby. Its batteries had corroded, so I threw them away and put it in my closet. Suddenly at 1 AM, I hear haha, I see you, haha. IDK if anyone has said it yet, but the old Beyblades. The ones with the sharp metal on them and would slice up your hands when you tried to pick it up while it was still spinning, lol. My cousin once sent one into a wall because it flew off his kitchen table. Edit. Tie for the upvotes guys, gals and NB pals, and also tie for the award. We had these banned from school because a kid got his eye torn out by one. I think certain models of Beyblades were actually banned in my country, or at least they were talked about being banned. I'm surprised trampolines are still around, even with the dumb safety cage netting they must all have now. Yep, I was gonna say trampoline without a net or padding on the edges, so either you flew off the thing and got a concussion or you got your leg maimed when it got stuck between the springs. On playgrounds, there's always the spinning gate. It was a gate on a pole. You stood on the back of it and kick off like a skateboard and just spin around on it. Think a merry-go-round, but smaller and crazier. We had something like this on my 90s school playground. It wasn't a spinning gate, but basically just a small, single-person merry-go-round with a tall pole up the middle to hang on to. Because they were so tiny you could get some absolute G-force going with another kid's help. We used to challenge each other to spin on them and then run up the slide. Multiple broken bones were had. Skydancers were banned if I recall correctly. Beyblades were banned from school. Both had the habit of spinning into children's eyes and blinding them. In the late 90s my elementary school had a metal slide about 15 feet tall, the ladder to climb up, and the railing around the 1 foot wide platform at the top were made of skinny metal tubing that got slick AF when it was wet. The sides of the slide were about 6 inches tall, super easy to just go over the edge. Several kids fell or were pushed off over the years when I was there. One boy had to be hospitalized not once, not twice, but 3 times after jumping off it. Around 2001 the school tore it down and replaced it with an extremely lame plastic slide about 8 feet tall, with sides about 1 foot tall. Oh, and I have a children's science textbook from the 1930s that describes all sorts of experiments with electricity kids can do with the power outlets in their home. What could go wrong? Playground equipment like seesaws, merry-go-round, and metal slides. I once burned a layer of skin off my thighs going down a hot metal slide, summer in Georgia in shorts. The old merry-go-rounds were great. You started spinning it fast enough and kids would just start flying off, or start throwing up. I loved that thing. Super soakers were getting a little out of control from the mid-90s to the early 2000s. They held a ton of water and felt like someone was spraying you with a pressure washer. Hitting someone in the eyes would temporarily blind them and crying wasn't uncommon. Slip and slides here also pretty rough when a rock poked up through the plastic and caught your stomach after a 30-foot head start. So much blood. My 7th grade teacher told us a story about his brother's sack getting torn BC it got caught on a stick that was underneath the makeshift garbage bag water slides they used to make. The stick literally pierced his ball sack. I had a set of clackers, and the bruised and swollen wrists and elbows that go along with learning how to use them. Not sure many people today would even know what those were, though. Just look them up. Apparently they would also eventually shatter, sending glass into the face of the person playing with them. My dentist used to give me vials of mercury to bring to school for show and tell. My parents bought me a rock collection at a natural history museum that included a chunk of asbestos from which you could pull fibrous material. We also had metal trucks with extremely sharp edges and lead-based paint jobs. Moon shoes. I wanted moon shoes so bad because I thought I'd be able to fly like 12 feet in the air. Turns out I was a fat kid LMAO. M80s. They were like a extra powerful firecracker. Supposedly one stroke ate off a stick of dynamite. We would use them to literally blow stuff up, like sending garbage cans into the air or blowing street signs off their posts. They were really a lot of fun for us early teenage boys. Bottle rockets. 2. Even the ladder-finger firecrackers could do some harm, lighting them and throwing them up in the air. One boy didn't throw high enough and it came down into another boy's shirt and exploded on his back. He had an interesting looking scar from that. Metal Tonka trucks. Definitely a one-way ticket to bruised shins and a smashed toe or two. Pocket knife, bow and arrow, slingshot, BB gun, bullwhip. Fisher-Price people that aren't 3 across. My friend had a tandem bike that weighed more than we did. We would wobble around our very, very small town at will. No helmets, no nothing. Just an 8 and a 10-year-old girl going up to the post office by ourselves on an ancient steel frame to get a carbonated beverage. Lawn darts, BB guns, CO2 cartridges filled with gunpowder aka crater makers. I guess that last one isn't a toy per se. We did a lot of stuff like that to make our own fun that would get CPS called in today. Slap bracelets. The old ones had a sharp piece of metal inside them and those duckers hurt. And of course we didn't just wear them. That was no fun. We had to have full on playground wars and come in from recess with our arms all torn up. Also I knew 2 different kids who broke their ankles using a skip it. Thank goodness I was an indoor kid. Those things would have been a disaster for my clumsy ass. I was my block skip it queen. No one could skip it like me. We had quite a few broken ankles for a while. Everyone bought a slap bracelet at the book fair. I saw someone get hit in the eye with a pog. They seem all innocent and shit but that kid sported a black eye for a while. Chemistry set with some fun to play with mercury. A wood burning set to burn your address into a piece of wood or into your hand. A metal casting set to make molten lead to make army soldiers with or to burn blisters into your finger. Polly Pockets and Littlest Pet Shops are now made gigantic because I guess too many kids choked on them. I had both and loved them. Ended up selling at a garage sale during my I'm not a kid anymore phase. Wish I still had them. When I was 12, my friend used to pull out his dad's welder so we could modify bike frames. We used to do wacky shit like weld extensions on our forks to build choppers, or weld 2 bikes together to make our own tandems. I distinctly remember there was only one welding helmet and the rest of us would peek through our fingers. No one went blind as far as I know but I do remember a few welds breaking at speed and some of the guys limping home with blood dripping down their legs. Any toddler pull toy with a long string. Nowadays strings aren't longer than 6 inches, I think. Easy bake oven. That 100-watt light bulb could burn. I'm 13, but my mother told me about how old Mr. Potato Head bits had real metal spikes that you stuck into an actual potato. Freaky man. Cap guns that looked like real guns. Desert Eagle pistol had wood grips with slight gloss. The cap centered in a magazine from the bottom of the grip. No red cap on barrel. All black. Even a safety toggle for the trigger. AK-47 automatic water guns where again, water is in the magazine and you pop it in and go. If it didn't look very real, kids weren't into it. Then cops started accidentally shooting kids a lot and that all went bye-bye. 3-wheeled ATVs killed so many people in the early 1980s that they had become banned in some countries. Shortly before their decline here in Canada, mid to late 1980s, my family owned 2 of them. I can remember several times where myself and my 2 brothers rolled them onto our heads' necks. Luckily none of us were very seriously hurt. But now that I have kids, I would never let them use a 3-wheeler. My older brother had an original erector set from 1975. It's just toy scrap metal pieces with 1,000 tiny screws, nuts, and bolts to possibly choke on or stick in a light socket. Not that we ever tried. Survival knife. We all had these after the Rambo movies. 7 inches serrated blade. Compass on the hilt. A garrote you could take off in case you had to strangle someone. And matches in the hilt. Woe be to the communist who tried to raid the suburbs that summer. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.